We're continuing our off-season outlook for teams that are now in the process of going through their off-season plans to prepare for the 2025-26 OHL season. And today we're going to land on the Soo Greyhounds. And for Sault Ste. Marie, bit of an up and down season. There were at points where they were quite competitive against the top teams in the Ontario Hockey League, and then other stretches where they couldn't string wins together, and really came down to the final week of the regular season before they clinched a playoff spot. At one point, it looked like they were going to play a one-game playoff against the Owen Sound Attack, but were able to get a win on the last day against the Sarnia Sting to eliminate them from contention, and ended up falling into the seventh seed in the Ontario Hockey League standings and would have faced the Windsor Spitfires in the opening round. They did put up a fight. They won one game. However, Windsor would get the better of them, winning in 5 games. But for the regular season, they had a record of 29, 35, 2-2. Good for 62 points. And there's a bit of a trend with the Sioux over these last 4 seasons where they have an up year and then a down year. Like last year, for example, 95 points was their total in 23-24. They ended up going to Game 7 of the second round against the Saginaw Spirit, where they ended up falling to the Memorial Cup host. In 22-23, they had 55 points. They ended up missing the playoffs that season by 17 points. They were down and out in that season. And then in 21-22, 85 points and another second round exit to the Flint Firebirds that season. So, like I said, in the even years, they have a great run. They go to the second round and fall short. And then the odd years, it seems, well, they barely make the playoffs or miss the playoffs entirely. That's the trend it's been for Sault Ste. Marie. But they do have a pretty good squad, I think, going into next year. So maybe that trend will continue, where we'll actually see the Greyhounds have a competitive bunch. But let's see how they did with the points last year. Your top 10 scorers for Sault Ste. Marie. Marco Mignosa, he led the way, 36 goals, 49 assists, 85 points. What a leader he was, both on and off the ice for this Greyhounds team. They had some depth at the start of the season, but then started trading players off, including Andrew Gibson. He was the big trade at the OHL trade deadline to the Oshawa Generals. But for Mignosa, he was very steady, and you could count on him night in and night out for the Greyhounds, and that's why you saw there 85 points to his credit. Second in scoring this past season was Brady Martin, 33 goals, 39 assists, 72 points. Don't be surprised to hear Brady Martin's name called early in the upcoming NHL draft. He should be a first-round selection, maybe even top 10. But Brady Martin, a great pickup there for Sault Ste. Marie. He was their first-round selection back in the 2024 OHL priority draft, and really expect big things, I think, from him next year. Third in scoring was Justin Cloutier, 28 goals, 26 assists, 54 points. Noel Nord, the import from Sweden, 21 goals, 32 assists, 53 points. Kind of wondered if he would be one of the players moved at the OHL trade deadline, but it's my understanding he asked not to be traded out of Sault Ste. Marie. And of course, Sault Ste. Marie, respecting his request. So he ended up finishing the year with the Hounds. Fifth in scoring was Travis Hayes, 21 goals, 30 assists, 51 points. Chase Reed, one of the rookies, he was sixth in scoring, 7 goals, 33 assists, 40 points. Brady R. Smith, he was seventh in scoring, 11 goals, 19 assists, 30 points. Owen Allard, he missed a large chunk of the season with injury and whatnot. He had 14 goals, 14 assists, 28 points. If he played the full 68 games, Allard probably would have been up there in the top 3 of scoring with Sault Ste. Marie. And then Jordan Charon, another rookie, 10 goals, 11 assists, 21 points. And Brady T. Smith was 10th in scoring, 8 goals, 12 assists, 20 points. Remember, Brady T. Smith was acquired in the Andrew Gibson trade from Oshawa. And that was a tricky spot for broadcasters last year, putting Brady Smith with Brady Smith, and they would put them on the same line together. So that's why you have to use the middle initial to determine who was who. But when you look at the top 10 scorers, 4 of them are rookies. So they were in their first year in the Ontario Hockey League, which I think is an encouraging sign going forward as long as everybody returns for next season. And you'll remember that they had 2 first-round selections last season. So with the 7th pick, the Greyhounds, they went with Noah Laus, 25 goals, 17 assists, 42 points in 33 games played last year with the Toronto Junior Canadiens. And remember, that team ended up winning the OHL Cup. And with their second first-round selection, 19th overall, was Ryan Kaczynski. He's from New York State. 57 goals, 61 assists, 118 points in 60 games played. And he's a big body too. So if that can translate well into the Ontario Hockey League, that first round selection by the Greyhounds might be a pretty big pickup here for the Sioux going forward. And of course, last season played with the Mid Fairfield Junior Rangers. Now, they don't have too many 2005 born players on their roster at this point. So picking an OA, the three OAs, they might have it here. Their options include Justin Cloutier, Marco Mignosa, who led the team in scoring, Noel Nord. He's an import and a Utah Mammoth prospect. I don't think he returns next season, but if he did, that'd be a big boost for the Greyhounds. And then Braden Valeris, they acquired him from the Peterborough Petes. He is another option from the blue line. So there's four candidates here for Sault Ste. Marie going into next season. You would think maybe Cloutier, Mignosa, Valeris would be your three OAs to start the season, unless Nord returns from Utah. But time will tell. They could also acquire an OA from another team or whatnot. So we'll wait and see what the Greyhounds do. But having a Marco Mignosa back in his OA season, I think that'd be huge for Sault Ste. Marie next year. And that's why I think this team has a chance to maybe be one of the top four teams in the Western Conference standings next year. Maybe they contend for top spot in the West Division, although you have to figure a team like the Windsor Spitfires, they're going to be stronger. I think Sarnia is going to have a better year. So the Greyhounds might be in tough, I think, winning the West Division, but they should be more challenging and more competitive as the season goes on. But it's going to be interesting, though, with the whole NCAA commitments. Both Chase Reed, Jordan Charon, both have NCAA commitments. So do they return next year, or do they go on to their commitments for NCAA for schooling? Time will tell. That's going to be, I think, a big question mark there. I do like the goaltending, though. Landon Miller, I think he's shown that he's capable of being a starter. They had Nolan Lalonde there in the final stretch after picking him up from Kingston in the Charlie Schenkel trade. But I think it's Miller's time to take over the crease with the Greyhounds. And there's also been questions about John Dean behind the bench. Does he return as head coach next season? I think that's going to be a big question when Kyle Raftis looks at this team and, do they want a new voice behind the bench? So we haven't heard confirmation yet on whether or not Dean will return to the Greyhounds, but I think that's a valid question for Sault Ste. Marie. So like I said, I don't think they're going to be a contender per se, but I do think this is a playoff-bound team in 25-26, but who knows? We've seen surprises before, like Windsor winning the West Division. But still, I think this is going to be a very fun Greyhounds team to follow. They should be much improved over what we saw this past season. So let me know in the comments below your thoughts on Sault Ste. Marie going into next season. Do you think the Greyhounds are going to be a contender in the West, or should we maybe expect the middle of the pack? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you very much for your support. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you again soon.